Thank you. Next. Congressman-elect Dan Crenshaw got payback on Pete Davidson for mocking his appearance, joining the comedian on Saturday Night Live to receive an in-person apology, only to troll Davidson with Ariana Grande music. But what began as a hilarious Weekend Update appearance turned into a heartfelt tribute to veterans and Davidson's father, who died in September. 11 terrorist attacks. Get push notifications with news, features, and more. Following you'll get the latest updates on this topic in your browser notifications. In what I'm sure was a huge shock to people who know me, I made a poor choice last week. Davidson, 24, began his apology, going on to mention how embarrassed his mom must have been after Davidson's comments about Crenshaw, who lost his right eye while serving as a Navy SEAL in Afghanistan in 2012, on last week's episode. Can you imagine being Pete Davidson's mom? It can't be easy when everyone's mad at your son and roommate, cracked Davidson, who has made multiple jokes about his living arrangements in the week since his split from former fiancée Grande, 25, in mid-October. Davidson then struck a serious tone, calling Crenshaw a war hero who deserves all the respect in the world. If any good came of this, added Davidson, maybe that it was for one day the left and the right came together to agree on something, that I'm a D. You think, said Crenshaw, 34, surprising the audience while sliding up to the Weekend Update desk. Lieutenant Com. Dan Crenshaw, everyone, thank you so much for coming, said Davidson as the audience gave the Texas politician a warm applause. Thanks for making a Republican look good, replied Crenshaw. For people that don't know, the reason you're wearing an eye patch right now is that you lost your eye to an ET in Afghanistan during your third combat tour. And I'm sorry, said Davidson. Crenshaw accepted the apology, saying, "We're good," but the moment was interrupted by a phone call. Crenshaw's ringtone? Grande's single breathin'. As the audience erupted in laughter and applause, Davidson lit up with a smile. "You gonna answer that?" he said while Crenshaw kept a straight face. "No, I'm just gonna let it ring," he replied. "That's rude to answer it. Let's just let it go to voicemail." After Davidson said Grande's music was cool, Crenshaw asked, "Oh, do you know her?" Continuing to have fun at Davidson's expense, Crenshaw took up the SNL star's offer to make fun of a photo of him. "This is Pete Davidson. He looks like if the meth from Breaking Bad was a person," he said, adding that Davidson also looked like a troll doll with a tapeworm. With the jokes behind him, Crenshaw noted the lessons to learn here. Not just that the left and the right can still agree on some things, but that also that Americans can forgive one another, he said. "We can remember what brings us together as a country and still see the good in each other." This is Veterans Day weekend, which means it's a good time for every American to connect with a veteran, Crenshaw continued. Maybe say, "Thanks for your service," but I would actually encourage you to say something else. Tell a veteran, "Never forget." When you say never forget to a veteran, you are implying that as an American, you are in it with them, Crenshaw added. Not separated by some imaginary barrier between civilians and veterans, but connected together as grateful fellow Americans. Crenshaw also recognized heroes like Pete's father, Scott Davidson, a New York City firefighter who died in the September 11 terrorist attacks when Pete was just 7 years old. "So, I'll just say, Pete, never forget," said Crenshaw as the two shook hands. "You're a good man," Pete told Crenshaw as the segment wrapped up. "Thank you." The controversy began on last week's SNL when Davidson joined Weekend Update to give his first impressions on a few of the candidates who ran for office in the midterm elections. When a photo of Crenshaw came up, Davidson joked that he looked like a hitman from a porno due to his eye patch. "I'm sorry, I know he lost his eye in war, or whatever," he said as he laughed. "Whatever." Davidson immediately received harsh backlash for the comment. In fact, when he appeared on Today on Monday, his SNL co-star Kenan Thompson said Davidson crossed the line. "I personally would never necessarily go there, but it's tough when you're fishing for jokes, like that's how stand-ups feel like there's no real filters out there in the world when they're trying to go for a great joke, or whatever, and we try to respect that, but at the same time, when you miss the mark, you're offending people, so you have to really be a little more aware in my opinion," Thompson said, adding, "He definitely missed the mark." On social media, many called Davidson out for being insensitive. "It's not political correctness to say this joke literally belittles Dan Crenshaw's sacrifice for our country," wrote one Twitter user. "He deserves our thanks and Pete Davidson's apology." However, Crenshaw, who won his race to represent Texas's 2nd congressional district in the House, said no amends were necessary. "I want us to get away from this culture where we demand apologies every time someone misspeaks," he told TMZ on Monday. "I think that would be very healthy for our nation to go in that direction. We don't need to be outwardly outraged. I don't need to demand apologies from them. They can do whatever they want, you know. They are feeling the heat from around the country right now, and that's fine.